Hey Optimancers, Chris here. Lately, the majority of the conversation I hear regarding monsters of the multiverse is is the Bugbear broken? If you like the content on this channel and you would like to support it, you can do so following the Patreon link in the video description. Today I want to thank some of my top level patrons: Tristan Bello, Vu, Wesley Terpstra, Wick, Zachary Shapiro, Xandar the Mighty, Hey Mr. Wonderful, Brian Delgado, Brother Shadow, Burr, Cameron Phillips, Condor, John D, Jay Good, Wu Carl Kong, Mark D, Moxie, Reichenstahl, Shane and Todd Beyond, Taftaj, Tellius, Thunderlock, Tyler W.S., Clovier, and Vo. Thank you so much for your support. Let's get started. So, the Bugbear from Volos was generally considered okay, but not amazing. +2 strength, +1 dexterity, dark vision, a free skill, and an extra 2d6 damage against an enemy that was surprised. But most notably, you get those long limbs. This would allow you to add 5 feet to your reach on melee attacks during your turn. That feature's a little weird because firstly, it meant when it wasn't your turn, you don't have the reach. So I'm not sure what happened to those long limbs if you make a reaction attack or attempted to maintain a grapple, but apparently they were super long on your turn, then not so long when it wasn't. Secondly, and probably even more weird, was the Bugbear monster has 5 feet of reach. So I'm not sure where this feature even came from. Apparently PC bugbears have longer limbs than NPC ones? Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to work Brute into the PC bugbear instead? I mean, I get that it's maybe too powerful for a PC. Like if you have a great axe doing 2d12 base damage, that's a lot of damage. But they could have maybe taken the thematics of it and then applied it to the PC, but maybe something a little scaled down. Like Brute. Once on each of your turns, one of your attacks with a melee weapon can deal an extra d6 damage to the target on a hit. Like a scaled down version, but thematically the same. But that's not what we got. We got the Stretch Armstrong arms instead. Which is fine, honestly. I mean, even if it's a bit weird, because at least it's interesting. It gives the Bugbear a unique trait, allowing a player to explore some different options that no other race would have provided. And like I said, it was considered okay. Not really powerful, but something interesting to work with. Then came Monsters of the Multiverse, and Bugbears got boosted big time. Like all races, they got the ability score flexibility, so +2/+1 or 3+1s wherever you like. They got Fey Ancestry, giving them advantage on saves to avoid or end the charm condition. Sneaky now just didn't give the bonus skill proficiency, but now allows you to move through and stop in spaces that normally would require you to squeeze, except now you don't have to. They kept the long-limbed trait, so you still have the Stretch Armstrong arms. And all of that isn't going to have the average player concerned if it's a broken race. But Surprise Attack was really changed. Instead of 2d6 once to a surprised enemy, it became 2d6 on every attack against the target that hasn't taken their turn yet in combat. Which gets any optimizer's brain thinking, how can I get a character to reliably win initiative, get the most attacks in that first turn, and hit with those attacks? Because those 2d6s are going to add up. And if you're winning initiative at least reasonably often, all that extra damage is going to occur before the enemy does anything in all these combats. And that's a pretty big deal. I had many comments about the Bugbear when I did my racial introduction videos about Monsters of the Multiverse, and there was a near consensus on how to make this all work. Like I said, you want 3 things. You need to win initiative. If you don't win initiative, then that's it. Number 2, you need as many attacks as possible. Every additional attack gets another 2d6. And 3, you need to hit as reliably as possible. I mean, if you make 4 attacks with a 75% chance to hit, that is going to deliver more of those 2d6s than 5 attacks with a 50% chance to hit. And the solution kept appearing in the comments section. What if you had 3 levels of Gloomstalker? I mean, that's the big one. You get the archery combat style for a +2 to hit, Ambush gives you extra attack, plus another d8 damage, exactly when you want it. And your wisdom is a bonus to initiative. Like 3 levels of Gloomstalker seems almost tailor-made for the surprise attack trait. Then you would maybe want 3 levels of Assassin. Assassins get advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken its turn yet in combat. So basically, if you're using surprise attack, you'll have advantage. Again, tailor-made. And then some fighter. Mainly Action Surge is the hero here, allowing you an extra action you could take on that first turn of combat, which would lead to a lot more attacks and a lot more 2d6s. A combination of these 3 options presented itself again and again because it's just so obvious. They're so well fit. There was some disagreement on which fighter subclass worked best. Maybe Battlemaster for ambush and precision attack to improve your chances of winning initiative and hitting. Maybe Echo Knight. Then you could use your Unleash Incarnation ability to get additional attacks. If you wanted to skip Assassin entirely, then maybe Samurai. That could give you advantage on those first turn of attacks. Eventually, of course, you would love to get to Fighter 11 and get that 3rd base attack. So if you get to high levels, let's say 18, and then you had Battlemaster 12, Assassin 3, Gloomstalker 3, how does that end up looking? Well, on initiative, you're in good shape. If you're an archery build, your dexterity is probably 20, your wisdom is likely 16, that's plus 8 right off the bat. Then you have 5 superiority dice, which are d10s at this point, and you could use one of them on your initiative roll with your ambush maneuver if you needed to. Then, assuming you win initiative, which you likely will, then you get 3 base attacks with your attack action, then an ambush attack with Gloomstalker giving you a 4th attack, as well as an additional d8 damage on that attack. Assassin would give you advantage on all the attacks, and it would give you an additional 3d6 sneak attack damage. Maybe with Gloomstalker you would have advantage anyways, if you're in darkness and the enemy is relying on dark vision to see you, but with the Assassin, it's just guaranteed. So, again, just tailor-made. Then, with your fighter, you get your Action Surge to bring another attack action, so 4 more attacks. We're now up to 8 attacks. That's 16d6 in additional damage from surprise attack. Now, depending on our chance to hit, which precision attack and advantage and archery combat style are going to bring way up, that could easily be around 40 extra damage from surprise attack or more. Maybe Crossbow Expert as well for a 9th attack using our bonus action. So yeah, that's the obvious build as far as I'm concerned, and was the obvious build, or at least similar iterations of that combination, for many of the commenters on my videos. And when I see the Bugbear being called out as broken, that's pretty close to the build I'm going to see referenced. So that brings me to the title of this video. Is it actually broken? Well, let's actually break this down. So first off, we probably don't have Action Surge every combat. We could if we're short resting after every combat, but at least probably not. But let's say we're using Action Surge. Just how deadly is this Bugbear? Well, first off, what does our build look like? 12 levels of fighter, so we have 4 ability score increases, so we can definitely get our dexterity to 20. We could also grab Sharpshooter, and maybe we would grab Crossbow Expert, or maybe even the Alert feat. You know what? We're probably winning initiative anyway, so let's go with Crossbow Expert. So let's say we win initiative. And again, we're probably winning initiative pretty reliably. So we make 8 attacks with our 2 attack actions alone. Let's say against Armor Class 18. We have a base plus 9 to hit, add 2 from the archery combat style, minus 5 from Sharpshooter. That leaves us with plus 6 to hit using Sharpshooter. That would normally be 45% chance to hit. But Assassin is giving us advantage, so we square our chance to miss. So 55% chance to miss becomes 30%. In other words, advantage gives us a 70% chance to hit. That means we would normally hit about 5 or 6 times, but we have superiority dice to turn those 2 to 3 misses into hits. Now that's not 100%, but you know what? If we're willing to expand the resources, we could probably hit on 7 of 8 attacks, I would say on average. Our damage per hit is based on what weapon we're using, so let's say a hand crossbow, and we're going to use Crossbow Expert for that extra attack. Let's keep the math easy and assume we'll hit, so we would hit with 8 of 9 attacks. Each attack is doing a d6 from the base damage of the crossbow, add 5 from dexterity, 10 from sharpshooter, and 2d6 from surprise attack. That's 3d6 plus 15, or an average of 25.5 damage per hit. With 8 hits, that's 204 points of damage. And we need to add in our sneak attack damage, our very likely critical hit damage, our ambush attack damage, and then, why not, throw on a favored foe for another d4. We're now up to about 233 points of damage. Now, I have a novel idea. What if we scrapped the hand crossbow and used a heavy crossbow instead? Then instead of attacking with our bonus action, we cast Hunter's Mark with it, and we don't bother with favored foe because we'd be concentrating on Hunter's Mark. Well, our chance to hit is unchanged, but we would hit with 7 out of 8 attacks instead of 8 out of 9. We might save a superiority die. Damage is higher per attack though. Add a d6 from Hunter's Mark, and base damage changes to a d10. So d10 plus 3d6 plus 15 equals 31 average damage per attack. With 7 hits, that's 217 points of damage. Then we add Gloomstalker ambush attack damage, sneak attack damage, critical hit damage. We're up to about 240 points of damage. So that's 7 more than the hand crossbow. So it is a bit more, but you could go either way, and I don't think it makes a huge difference. Okay, so 240 is a ton of damage. So is it broken? Well, Bugbear actually only contributes about 1/4 of that damage. And the fact is, this build is comfortably doing around 200 points of damage with any race. Not that the Bugbear damage isn't significant. It is, but it might be less of the total damage than you might have assumed. The reality is, you get this mix of classes and subclasses, levels, feats, and yeah, you can do a ton of damage on round 1, regardless of your race. But is the, 50-ish extra damage that the Bugbear is adding broken? Well, to be brutally honest, I don't know. It is a lot more damage, at least with this one build. I'm not sure boosting 50 points of damage when you're already around 200 breaks the game. I mean, probably not, but I can't say that for sure. I do think the Bugbear got overtuned. They boosted that surprise attack more than they needed to, leading to a race that is now at least one of the more powerful races. Is it more powerful than custom lineage? Well, I think for some builds it definitely is. For this build it is, but overall, then I'm not so sure. However, it is really good. So good that the long limb feature isn't at all the signature feature of the Bugbear anymore. I mean, if our best Bugbear build isn't using a melee weapon, then we're basically ignoring long-limbed. So I decided upon release of Monsters of the Multiverse, I was going to do some builds for some of the races that got new and interesting things. And I think Bugbear is at the top of that list. But I don't want to just give you Gloomstalker Assassin Fighter. Yeah, it's a great build. Probably and obviously the best build for Bugbears, truly. And if you want to see how to make that build work, I recommend checking out D4 Deep Dive's Gloomstalker build. I'll link the video in the video description. The level distribution is a bit different, but it's a Gloomstalker, Battlemaster, Assassin, Bugbear that uses ranged weapons. Now, he uses the gunner feat and firearms, and he also uses Hunter's Mark for that big round 1 damage boost. It's, quite similar to what I've laid out in this video. Similar enough that I don't see doing that build in a video. It's just laying out what he already has, and what so many viewers had already figured out. For Bugbear, this combination of subclasses is optimal. And it got me thinking, is this now the only optimal build for Bugbear? I mean, it's so obviously tailor-made for surprise attack. Is every Bugbear now going to be a Gloomstalker? So I've been thinking, how else might we build a Bugbear? Our goals remain the same. We want to win initiative. We want to make lots of attacks. We want to hit with those attacks. It occurred to me that surprise attack doesn't specify weapon attacks. So, maybe we could go Bladesinger 6, Warlock 2 for Eldritch Blast, then a couple levels of Fighter for Action Surge, and maybe a few levels of Sorcerer for Quicken Spell. That would bring a ton of attacks. Like, a 17th level character could fire a weapon, and then fire 4 Eldritch Blasts. Then they could Action Surge and do it again. And then they could Quicken an Eldritch Blast for 14 possible attacks on round 1. But I played with that build, and I have to tell you, it's not so easy to ensure that build would win initiative. And if we don't win initiative, then why be a bugbear at all, because we're not using surprise attack. So I've come up with another idea to get extra attacks, boost our initiative, and boost our chance to hit. Maybe we can actually make a pretty good bugbear build without going Gloomstalker after all. And you guessed it, I'll be presenting that build in my next video. So I hope you'll join me. Otherwise, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.